Salam Allah. The title of this mini-documentary is The Asiatic Calendar Year, according to the teachings of Allah's last messenger, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. This will be both an educational as well as a tutorial session, and the time will move quickly, and these will be the tools we will be using. Lost Found Muslim Lesson Number 2, Question and Answers 1 through 40, the Holy Quran of Mecca, Arabia, the Nile Valley Calendar of Dendera, Egypt, and a calculator. Now, a person may ask, well, are not Arabia and the Nile Valley in Egypt or Kemet two separate places with two separate cultures? And my answer to that would be yes, they are. Yet, although both places are currently populated and controlled by lesser melanated races of half-original and non-original people, we are not speaking of the modern Aryanized, whitewashed persuasion of Islam as expressed by non-original people in Arabia. Nor are we speaking of the modern Aryanized, whitewashed persuasion of Egyptology as expressed by these non-original hijackers of indigenous Nile Valley culture. What we are speaking of is the original expression of Islam as expressed by the original nation in Arabia, and the original expression of indigenous Nile Valley culture expressed by the original nation in the Nile Valley. Both of these places were originally inhabited, cultivated, and developed by the same Aboriginal Asiatic black people whom are referred to by historians as Moors and whom were referred to by the messenger Elijah Muhammad as the tribe of Shabazz. The messenger says on page 31 of Message to the Black Man, quote, "We, the tribe of Shabazz, says Allah God, were the first to discover the best part of our planet to live on, the rich Nile Valley of Egypt and the present seat of the holy city Mecca, Arabia." End quote. Therefore, according to the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, both Mecca, Arabia, and the Nile Valley, Egypt, were first discovered and settled upon by people of the same tribe, the tribe of Shabazz. He referred to this region as, quote, "the best part of our planet to live on," end quote. And if we take a closer look, we will see that these places he mentioned are on or near a very minerally rich area of land that geologists refer to as the Fertile Crescent. The Fertile Crescent is situated along the Nile, the Tigris, and the Euphrates rivers. This covers modern-day Egypt, Syria, Jerusalem, Israel, Palestine, Jordan, Iraq or Mesopotamia, and parts of Iran or Persia. Now let us take a look at the geographical locations of these two places. The only thing that separates Mecca, Arabia from the Nile Valley in Egypt is the Red Sea. The distance between Mecca, Arabia and the city of Luxor, which is located in the interior of the Nile Valley in Egypt, is only 541 miles or 870 kilometers. However, the distance between Mecca and the land called Egypt itself is less than half of that. Therefore, the Aboriginal black people in both regions are as distant from each other as is the black people in America from New York and the black people in America from Cleveland, or even closer than that. Therefore, it is not beyond reason to conclude that there existed an exchange of culture and ideas between the peoples. Lost Found Muslim Lesson Number 1, Question Number 6 asks, why does the devil call our people Africans? Answer, to make our people of North America believe that the people on that continent are the only people they have and are all savage. He bought a trading post in the jungle of that continent. The original people live on this continent, and they, meaning the ones he calls Africans, are the ones who strayed away from civilization and are living a jungle life. The original people call this continent Asia, but the devils call it Africa to try to divide them. He wants us to think that we are all different, end quote. This, the messenger Elijah Muhammad teaches us, is Yaqub's trigonology, which is devilishment, telling lies, stealing, and how to master the original man via his strategy of divide and conquer. He would often show the more primitive people in the lesser developed places on the African continent. However, he would fail to show the more civilized people in the more advanced places on the African continent. Then he would call those lesser developed places Africa and the more primitive people in those places Africans. Yet he would have our people of North America believe that the more advanced places on the African continent are not in Africa, and that the civilized people in those places are not African. And that by calling our people African, we would identify as coming from savagery. This is what he intended, he being the devil, when he calls us Africans. And this is the devil's tricknology at its finest. Tricknology is defined in our lessons as devilishment, telling lies, stealing, and how to master the original man. Now to the heart of the matter. Lost Found Muslim lesson number 2, question number 1 asks, who made the Holy Quran or Bible? How long ago? Will you tell us why does Islam renew her history every 25,000 years? Answer. The Holy Quran or Bible is made by the original people who is Allah, the supreme being or black man of Asia. The Quran will expire in the year 25,000, 9,980 years from the date of this writing. The Nation of Islam is all wise and does everything right and exact. The planet Earth, which is the home of Islam and is approximately 25,000 miles in circumference. So the wise man of the East, black man, makes history or Quran to equal his home circumference, a year to every mile, and thus every time his history lasts 25,000 years, he renews it for another 25,000 years. We make history or Holy Quran or Bible both individually and collectively via our thoughts, words, ways, and actions every second of every minute of every hour of every day of every year of every 25,000 years. The messenger, Elijah Muhammad, said on page 108 of Message to the Black Man, quote, "We, the original nation of the earth, says Allah, the maker of everything, sun, moon, and stars, and the race called the white race, are the writers of the Bible and Quran. We make such history every 25,000 years. When such history is written, it is done by 24 of our scientists. One acts as judge or God for the others, and 23 actually do the work of getting up the future of the nation, and all is put into one book. And at intervals where such and such part or portion will come to pass, that people will be given that part of the book through one from among that people from one of the 12 major scientists, as it is then called a scripture, which actually means script of writing from something original or book." Message to the Black Man, page 108. Now, focus on that number 12. I put emphasis on that number 12 for a reason. Let's now take a look inside the Holy Quran and see what it says. Chapter 9, verse 36 says, "Surely the number of months with Allah is 12 months by Allah's ordinance since the day when He created the heavens and the earth. Of these, 4 are sacred." Here's that number 12 again. 12 months with the original people who is Allah, the supreme being or black man of Asia. Of these, 4 are sacred. Inside this verse are mathematical keys. Let us now use mathematics to identify these 4 months that are considered sacred and determine why. Mathematics is Islam, and Islam is mathematics. It stands true. You can always prove it at no limit of time. We divide the total number of months, 12, by the number of months considered sacred, 4. 12 divided by 4 equals 3. Therefore, every third month in the Asiatic year is considered a sacred or holy month. These are months 3, 6, 9, and 12. The third month, the 6th month, the 9th month, and the 12th month are all considered sacred in the Holy Quran by Allah, the original people. Let us take a look to find out why. A full 12-month year, or a complete Earth cycle around our sun, is divided by 4 key transition points: the spring equinox, the summer solstice, the fall equinox, and the winter solstice. The end of every third month in our Asiatic year features a transition point on Earth's orbit that brings in a new season. The Nile Valley calendar of Dendera, Egypt, brings together all of the previously mentioned things into one system. This Asiatic calendar was found engraved in the ceiling of a Nile Valley temple dedicated to the worship of the black god named Asar or Osiris, which means Lord of the Perfect Black. The sculpture itself, which is actually a scripture, begins its calendar year on the first day after the spring equinox. This will make the spring equinox itself the New Year's Eve in the Asiatic world. The day of the spring equinox contains exactly equal night and daylight hours. The following day, which is day 1 of the new year, features 1 more minute of daylight and 1 less minute of night. This represents the triumph of light over darkness, or God over devil, and was and is celebrated as the new year by the original people, who is Allah, the supreme being or black man of Asia. Asia in this context means the entire planet Earth. Now, I'm going to make 2 more points before I close this out. Let's take a closer look at the calendar of Dendera. Just to give a brief history on it before going further, the devils, who are culture vultures, have grafted their own variations of this sculpture scripture and called their versions of it the zodiac. They renamed the months after European names and terms. These first, second, and third signs that people who read horoscopes today call Aries, Taurus, and Gemini respectively are the first, second, and third months on this original sculpture scripture calendar developed by the original people, who is Allah, the supreme being or black man of Asia. This sculpture scripture calendar is a large circle upheld by 12 people all around it. 12. This circle, upheld by 12 people, is symbolic of Earth's 12-month orbit around the sun. And as the Holy Quran states that 4 of the 12 months with Allah are sacred, if we observe this sculpture scripture calendar carefully, we will see that 4 of the 12 upholding the circle are women. Now, what does this mean? That which is considered sacred is often guarded, covered, and veiled. This is the woman in Islam. And as there are 4 out of 12 months considered sacred in the Holy Quran, and as there are 4 key transition points on Earth's orbit around the sun, and as 4 out of the 12 people upholding the circle in the Dendera calendar are women, Surah or chapter number 4 of the Holy Quran is titled Anisa, which means the women. These similarities between the 2 cultures are not coincidences. They serve as witness bearers to the Messenger Elijah Muhammad's statement that both regions, the Nile Valley in Egypt and the seat of the present holy city Mecca, Arabia, were first settled upon and cultivated by descendants of the same tribe before anyone else, and that both the Holy Quran of Mecca, Arabia, and the sculpture scripture calendar of Dendera of the Nile Valley, Egypt, share one common Asiatic root. And going back to this calendar for the final time, you will see 23 men walking within the inner circle. You will also see the calf, the lamb, the serpent, the women, the dragon, the scales of judgment, the cattle, the men, and other signs and symbols representative of characters in the scriptures of both Bible and or Holy Quran, as well as the names and titles of some chapters of the Holy Quran. Now, let's get into calculating the actual year so that we can close this out. Here's a quote from the Messenger Elijah Muhammad from Message to the Black Man, quote, "According to the word of Allah to me, Mr. Yaqub was seen by the 23 scientists of the black nation over 15,000 years ago. They predicted that in the year 8400, that was in our calendar year before this world of the white race, this man, Yaqub, would be born 20 miles from the present holy city, Mecca, Arabia, and that at the time of his birth, the satisfaction and dissatisfaction of the people would be 70% satisfied, 30% dissatisfied, and that when this man is born, he will change civilization, the world, and produce a new race of people who would rule the original black nation for 6,000 years, from the 9,000th year to the 15,000th year." End quote. Message to the Black Man, pages 110 to 111. So the 15,000th year would be the end of the rule of this new race of people over the original black nation. Now let's go to the lesson to determine precisely when this is and exactly what year we are in the Asiatic world. Lost Found Muslim lesson number 2. Question number 35 asks, tell us the exact date of the expiration of the devil's civilization. Answer, expired in the year 1914. End quote. This is crucial. Expired in the year 1914, not at the year 1914. As previously mentioned, his rule was to expire in the 15,000th year in the Asiatic world. This means that the year 15,000 in our Asiatic calendar year commenced sometime in, not at, the Gregorian year of 1914. And as demonstrated earlier, our Asiatic calendar year begins on the first day after the spring equinox. Therefore, the year 15,000 in the Asiatic world equals post-spring equinox in 1914 of the Gregorian calendar. We will now close on how to calculate the current year in the Asiatic world. After the spring equinox, you subtract the current Gregorian year, which in this case is 2018, from 1914. 2018 subtracted by 1914 equals 104. We then add the answer to 15,000 years. 15,000 plus 104 equals 15,104 years. So we are in the year 15,104 in the Asiatic world. Peace and Happy New Year.